That photo was when I started Location SA. I've gone a bit grey since then. But yes. So it was interesting to see Brian from BP this morning, because there's some similarities, except for budget. But the thing is, it's all about constant learning, and that's for all of us in the GIS industry. And it's great to see as many women out there today as there are men. That's something that's really impressed me today. And citizen built, that's another thing that Location SA tries to do, is give the tools to the people that are and you'll see how that works within government of South Australia. And the other thing is buy-in, and I'll show you how our governance framework allows that to occur. Patricia had a few notes that I thought was really good. She talked about the role of translator, which is what she expects of all of you, and that shared leadership. And I'll show you how we share leadership in Location SA. She talked about collaboration and innovation, and I think those two things go hand in hand. Innovation through collaboration. I think that's really important. And expanding your circles is also very important. And I guess that's why you're here today as well. So, why Location SA? Well, adopt best practices is one of the first things that we look at. And we do that through leveraging innovation with key geospatial departments. And I'll show you how that has occurred over time in a moment. Reducing costs. And we do that through sharing our resources that we have throughout government. And expertise as well. We share that as well, and that reduces costs as well. There's shrinking budgets everywhere. And collaboration. And we do that to share our knowledge with each other, to improve the services to the community, and also to try and get things done. And that's all to facilitate business solutions and intelligence. So how do we do this? Well, we have a shared governance framework, and that's been really important. It's one of the structures that we use to enable to move forward. We started off what we call now the LSA support team. It was originally a small GIS team in a department that had the vision to share what it did, because it was good at what it did. It built physical infrastructure, and it started to think about how can we start sharing data across government. So it became a bit of a collaboration of the willing. So initially 3 agencies got together and they said, we're all doing the same thing. We've all got spatial technologies. We've all got spatial data, lots of it. Why can't we start sharing that data with each other? So a business reference group was set up, and that reference group was mostly managers within different work areas that had GIS staff in it. And then it realised, well, we need to have governance over the top of everything. So originally the governance group, and it still is today, mostly at CIO level, but that's changing. And that's changing because of people like Gary. He's got a new spatial strategy, he wants to go out. And that's changing more to a CE level, because you need to have that buy-in from the top. We've been leading up from the bottom for a long time, but we need to have that leadership now from the top. We need to be able to communicate to those top people. So the most important group, I feel, is the data management group. This was set up pretty much straight away. These are basically the data managers. We have a theory in South Australia that we classify and license all the data, and we produce metadata. And so we have identified data authorities as being the data owners. There's different words for that. We like to use those words, data owner or data authority. They're usually the CIOs. They don't want to deal with having to deal with data requests and all of that. They don't want to have to deal with managing the data. So we have data managers that take that responsibility. And so we've got a group and we meet on a monthly basis and we discuss, and they bring up new ideas. We share our knowledge and technologies. That's a very important group. Now that we've moved into the portal for ArcGIS realm, created platforms as a service for agencies, we now have a portal management group, and that's dealing with the problems of governance and also sharing data. What's the best infrastructure for sharing data? What's the best way to share the data within that portal and ArcGIS Pro environment? ArcGIS Pro is taking over from ArcMap. So we're all having to learn new technologies. We're bringing in, creating shared learning. We've got Esri in, training staff, and we're also teaching each other. And all of that equals shared leadership, and that's so important. Each person in each of those groups, under their terms of reference, are able to have input into change. Change that for the better, change that will help them do their work for their organisation, but will also flow on to all of the other organisations. So who is Location SA? Well, as Gary said, it's Coalition of the Willing. Most SA government agencies now, 19 of them, are members of Location SA, but it wasn't always that way. And so where is it used? Well, ArcGIS Desktop. Most of the GIS specialists now can get an SDE connection. They can tap into 586 data sets and load them up into their ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro or into Portal. These data sets are all from central points of truth. So if it's a content management system or if it's a geodatabase somewhere, we pull that out on a nightly basis, or weekly basis, or a monthly basis. If we say it's ad hoc, it's at least monthly. So we get the source of truth. People always know it's current and it's accurate. Web maps. Okay, most of the SA government web maps, and if you know some of them, like Ag Insight or SARIG or the Location SA map viewer that we built, all of the intersection services, the address location services, all of the base maps are all services that we share across government. So I mentioned the public map viewer, the Location SA map viewer. You can have a look at it. You can have a look at least 300 data sets, and you can see correlations between them. You can even share that link so that you can share up to 10 data sets on that map. If you get any more, it looks stupid. You can share that with someone else. So an agency can now share their data set combined with some other data sets at a particular location and share that to anyone in the world. We publish open data to data.sa. So we automatically go into the data store and feed it on a weekly basis to data.sa so that people can download it as a shapefile or a KML or a GeoJSON. And soon we'll have APIs up there, so web services for those data sets. That's going to be a big game changer for South Australia because it means mobile app developers don't need to go to that page, download the data set, reload it into their application that they built. They'll be able to get that service and have it fed to them straight away. And I'll show you why we can do that. And that's because we've moved from physical to the cloud space. We've now got the performance that we can do that with. And Agency Portal for ArcGIS Solutions developed an enterprise portal platforms built on the Amazon Web Services cloud infrastructure. AWS has been absolutely amazing with their support for the Department of Planning, Transport and Infrastructure. We've used their professional services to help us provide security within the government state network. And so we've got a very good relationship with them. We've trained resources in our department to know how to stand up a server or a database very quickly. And in a day, you can stand up a database and a server and get it running. It's amazing. Try and do that with physical infrastructure. You've got 3 months of bureaucracy and change management that you have to go through. So it's been a real winner for Location SA in the last couple of years. Our past issues is the aging physical infrastructure. That database is full, we can't use it. That server's running at capacity. Legacy solutions built on those platforms. High cost, very, very costly to change anything. Very fast, we've had a lot of outages, things dropping off, and that's just not acceptable in this day and age. Long change implementation times, as I've mentioned. Increased demand with decreasing budgets. Does that sound common? For online business solutions development. High cost of running multiple license agreements. Lots of silos within lots of departments, all paying separate license agreement fees. And high cost of external business solutions development. A simple app, you get a developer in, external developer, they'll charge you $200,000 for a mobile app, and then they'll charge you 20 grand a year to run it. You ask them to change something, oh, that's 30 grand. With a portal for ArcGIS solution, you can stand it up in a day or two, and you've got a mobile app out in the field. Solutions software vendor lock-in, that's always a problem. Once you've locked into that organisation, that solution is theirs, really, and you just got to keep paying them for it. No highly available solutions with 24/7 support. Sound common? So the journey. It started a long time ago. 2010, we had 4 members. It was a data sharing initiative, a spatial data sharing initiative of what it was called. It was back in the day of David Harvey. He was a real champion for this. So we had a leader that did lots of presentations to management and CEs, was able to convince the department to invest in some spatial infrastructure, a couple of databases and some servers, and share it with a few other agencies. A few other agencies say, yeah, we see the value in this, we'll give you a little bit of money. And we were able to build some infrastructure that we could share across those organisations. So we had that shared infrastructure in place in 2012. All of a sudden we had 5 members, wow. And we had 50 data sets, and we thought that was fantastic. We had 50 spatial data sets that were current and accurate, single point of truth data sets that we were sharing across government. Fantastic. And then we started developing web services from those data sets, started interacting with property information, planning information, administrative boundaries. We started building base maps, topographic base map from the Department of Environment, had lots of information. We built street base map services, so again, land boundaries was able to give us information for streets and property parcels, valuation parcels. And all of a sudden we had 74 data sets in 2013. Along comes 2014, we realised all of these data sets had to be controlled. What do I do with this data set? What can I do it? What's in it? What's it classified? You know, that's metadata is really important. So we built our own little metadata system, and it's basically any of the data managers can go in there, log in, and create a metadata report. It creates a URL and it produces a report. That went on to open data as well, so all of a sudden the public could see what metadata was available for that data set that they were downloading. And we because of that open data push, we had a lot of GovHack initiatives back at the time. We started collecting data sets, and more data sets started coming into the data store. So all of a sudden we had 308 data sets. The map viewer, the Location SA map viewer, was built in 2015. That was also a big push. All of a sudden, agencies could show their data sets on a map. Fantastic. Oh, it's got a relationship between this heavy vehicle route and this property over here. I can bring my truck into that property. So it was really important for agencies to had a tool that they could use to show their data on a map. And that got us 446 data sets, and we got 2 more members. So we got 7 members in 2015. 2016, we got 11 members. That was fantastic. All of a sudden we had a bit more money to do things with. You have to remember that Location SA is a collaboration. We're not an entity. We don't have an ABN. We're not BP. We're just a collaboration of the willing. We started looking at testing AWS in the cloud. And what we realised, we could build a base map in 4 or 5 hours, cost us $120. What we were currently doing in the physical environment is we had to do it over the weekend. You know, it'd take us 16 hours over a Saturday and Sunday. We had to shut everything down while we were processing it. It cost us thousands of dollars. So the savings, that test alone just showed us what the capacity in the cloud could be. In 2017, we worked with Esri to get a whole of state government licence for Esri software. All of a sudden, any SA government employee could have ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro on their desktop. That just opened the world for a lot of people, and a lot of agencies as well that couldn't afford to get their own licences. And that was a real beginner. So we're looking at that again in the future now. But we shifted services and a portal builds into the AWS cloud. Portal for ArcGIS came along, and that's really changed the world for all of us. We can now develop our own applications. It's just fantastic. We can develop our own web maps, and it's not that hard to do. We've got a platform that we can do it from. So Location SA went and built a platform as a service for agencies, and a lot of agencies has taken that on. We've got 10 portal platforms running at the moment. What we would like to do is reduce the number and start getting agencies to work together. We've done that with EPA and Department of Environment and Water. It's logical they're in one environment portal. So we're looking at that now. So along comes 2019, where we are today. We've now got 19 members and 586 data sets, which is, I think, pretty good. And those data sets are single point of truth data sets that we share across government. And we hope to share them more openly as well. That's always been a goal of mine. Okay, so our keys to success. I guess the LSA support team will have to take some credit. They've won a number of awards. Location SA itself won the World Geospatial Excellence Award in Amsterdam this year for public service. But this small team have won a number of technical awards for the work that they've done. And that's within one agency. Very small team. We're talking about 4 or 5 people. Highly skilled small team and a large department relying on strong infrastructure and spatial technologies. Planning, transport and infrastructure, there's a lot of employees there, there's a lot of responsibility. They've got Traffic SA, they've got a whole range of apps that are very important to the community that they need to support. They have a lot of geospatial data, so they're a prime organisation to do this sort of work with. Data sharing agreements. Gary was up before. His department created a Public Sector Data Sharing Act. We now have one agreement that everybody signs. No discussion about sharing data, we can do it. We've got an agreement in place. We know what the rules are. We've got the 5 safes to protect everyone. So that's an enabler. You don't have to go knocking on different people's doors, data owners and stuff like that. If the data's a certain classification, you know you can just use it straight away. If not, then you can go through the processes in place to get the data. Shared leadership. The governance framework that I showed before is very important. We've got a structure in place. So everybody at every level has got input to what happens. Everything comes up through to the business reference group, and then it goes to the governance group for approval. If it's good for everybody, we do it. Strategic plans are really important. We've got a strategic plan. All of my work activities, whether they be technical projects or collaborations, are all based on our strategic directions. And that's very important to have some clear objectives and goals if you want to move forward, because that gives you the right to do it. And now that Gary will be working on the state strategic geospatial strategy, opening up what we do within government to the rest of the world to help them, to bring in organisations into our economy, is going to change things again. And that's why we're looking at CE involvement in our governance group. And change management. It's good to have a change management framework for data. You know how the data, a new data set comes in, you license, you classify it. Does it go in the map viewer? Does it go to open data? So there's a process in place that everybody can understand and see. Have a change management framework that goes hand in hand with your governance framework. So those different groups within your governance framework make decisions for change management in your change management workflows. It's clear to everybody. Everyone understands what they need to do. Have a workflow system that they can input their requests in and pass it on to the next person, and it just flows. That really helps us. So I'll just go through a few portal solutions showcases. I've got hundreds, but I will just show a few. Country Fire Service Warnings Web Map shows fire incidents in SA. High volume, very important. Attorney General's Department are developing a State Emergency Control Centre dashboard. This is a prototype. Very important, it's pulling data from different portals into this portal so that during an emergency, people can see what's going on. Operations dashboard. Another operations dashboard, Department of Human Services, post-state disaster impact assessment tools. So they consolidate a number of mobile apps that they built. They put all the data into the dashboard, and then they can do analytics on it later on as well. The Housing Authority, conversion of audit data into a portal application. This is to keep an eye on those service providers that are doing things out for the community. Make sure that they're doing their job. Department of Planning, Transport and Infrastructure use Survey 123 for OC health and safety surveys of work areas. We used to walk around with a piece of paper and take notes of everything that we saw that was wrong, and then eventually collate it and then eventually put it in. This way the information goes straight in into a geodatabase, it gets shared, everyone knows what's happening all over different floors of different buildings, a bit like BIM, and start doing reporting and analytics on your OC health and safety throughout the department. Department of Environment Water Hazards, mobile survey 123 app was developed to assess fuel hazards. That's right, yeah. So they do spend a lot of time trying to work out what fuel is out there before the fire burns. It's good to know what's out there because it can help you prepare for a fire. Know how many leaves are on the ground, how many sticks, how many trees and everything else. Department of Trade and Tourism Investment, this is something Location SA built. It's an investment atlas, and we've pulled in services from Domain. So you can see if a property's for sale, can I get my truck in there? What infrastructure is there? Electricity, water connections. So investors from overseas or within SA or interstate can go and have a look to see what's around. Thank you very much. Any questions?